Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another great edition of Mulligans podcast by Scott and Shannie Styles. I'm Scott Styles, and tonight we have a special guest. His name is Luke Barnwell, and Luke is a very special friend of ours, and he's a special mentor to a lot of young men, and we'll get to know Luke as we get throughout the evening. Luke is a graduate of Newman University here in Wichita, Kansas. He's a two-time National Gatorade High School Coach of the Year. And we're really honored to have Luke with us tonight. Luke, congratulations on your past and awards, and appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be with you guys always, but it's fun to and share the mic. You know, I'm still going to pull out sports violence style.
We know you from basketball and just how you bring kids from all over the world, and I see how you mentor them and you coach with such passion, but yet hardly ever hear a foul word come out of your mouth, and you get the most out of your players. Tell me about your philosophy, not only with coaching but life, and how you coach every day.
Well, from a coaching standpoint, I think I try to be calm on game days, but sometimes that's not always the truth, because you take care of your business, during the week in practice. But we're a Christian school, and we're not, sometimes maybe that word is thrown around and not really held on to. But that's one thing I love about working at Sunrise. They hold true to the morality and the life that Christ wants us to live, and so the employees are held to that standard. And so I'm an employee, so you can mic me up in a game, you won't hear anything that your 2-year-old shouldn't hear, and our players shouldn't be saying that either. If you mic them up, you might get one slip up or two from them, but we hold them to the same morality, and that's what I think Sunrise is special for, because as so much of society is continuing to change and evolve and change and evolve, they stay true to the Word of God, and that's one of the main reasons that I am passionate about being there and why I stay there is I have the freedom and the space to coach a game that I love, but yet I don't have to hide. I don't have to, so many public institutions, you can't pray, you can't, scriptures are taken out of schools, and we're in a situation where it's not only you don't have to hide it, you're encouraged to do it. And even this year, I got the challenge to take on teaching Bible to our guys, which is more like walking into the calling that I think I stumbled into, blindfolded and backwards into when I got the job there. I honestly went there with the intention to be there a couple years and find a college job, and I didn't know how much it would change my life. And I live in a place that is fostering my spiritual development, and I work in a place that does the same. So it's definitely been a true blessing to where, you ask about everyday approach. It's you take it as a blessing, but yet you have a chance to impact and influence young people every day for the cause of Christ, and it's not like we're shoving Bible verses down their throat. It's just the way we live, and being around those people affected me the most, and it's changed kind of a lot of my life decisions, and certainly blessed to be there.
One of the things that I admire the most about you is that you do put Christ in everything that you do. When I see you, I really see you as a coach over everything. Because it's not just about winning the game to you, it's about winning in life for the kids. And how do I'm sure that a lot of them come from environments that aren't like this. How do they adjust to that?
That's a great question. It sometimes is very easy, and other times it's not. So the culture and environment that we have at Sunrise is different, and so there's a lot of give and take from their perspective, but we have to try to hold the line on a daily basis. And I think what we always try to do, to me, is the most important for kids in this generation is they have to understand why. And I think all of us were probably raised to just do what you're told to do. And now that's maybe out the window. And odd way. I don't know if that's good or bad, but if you explain the why, and I think they understand where we come from, and that we have to hold that line and they have to adjust, and it's difficult, and sometimes it's ripping the Band-Aid off, and sometimes it's putting your arm around them, and sometimes it's running them up and down the floor a few times or pushing towels. But I think when they learn like why I'm there, the purpose that I have for me, and then they really understand like why other people at Sunrise Village like they actually really do care about you. They actually really do love you, and we know that like if you're able to adjust into this, it's better for your life in the long run, and they actually care about who you become later. And you have to say that a lot for them to be able to trust you. And I think probably you probably weren't told why a lot when you were a kid. You were supposed to do it, and now you have to do that. It's almost a daily approach of mine. Like if I don't tell them why that I'm doing this, then they're gonna think I'm crazy. So,
growing up, I grew up in Methodist church across the street from my house. I was in junior choir, and then I got confirmed into our church in the 7th grade, with the Bible, baptized at 8 weeks old, everything. And you just go through the methodical every Sunday. Then you joined the senior choir, then I became religious because I could read well and speak and everything, so that was what church was to me. I got away from it after I went away to college out here. Grew up pretty much a rebel, just was not a good husband, wasn't a great dad, and it wasn't until I met Shannon that I found Christ again. And it's crazy how your life evolves. And like every day now, we walk at 5:30. We got Bible study at 6:30. I mean, that's even on weekends. I don't do that, so I do that first before I go play golf or whatever. And I know
golf's much better now. I have to tell you,
it's not more common.
everything's better with God.
Well, yeah, but it's crazy because I fought it for so long, and I did. I got baptized 5 years ago because I finally understood what the true meaning of baptism was. And I guess my point is when did Christ first come in your life, and how did it make a big difference in your life?
Yeah, I very similar journey. I grew up thinking like 2nd and 3rd grade. Our parents decided like, hey, we gotta probably raise our kids in church, and like all of a sudden we just started going to church. Kind of like out of nowhere.
Right.
And I mean, I was in Awanas on Wednesday night. We were at church twice on Sunday. It was just what we did, and I like you, when you get a choice, you make the choice that you want. And I think my biggest issue in faith as an adolescent was I didn't see God for who He was. I saw Him as somebody that probably was just pretty mad at me when I messed up.
I thought we prayed just to be safe in the football game.
And,
seriously.
Yeah. And so like when I had the choice to like, well, He's always going to be mad at me anyway. I might as well just not even touch it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave. And honestly, getting the job at Sunrise is what changed it. And like it was, to just be fully transparent, it was like, oh, I can take this. Like I've been in church my whole life. Like I can go to work at Sunrise and like not cuss and not do this and not drink. Like that's fine. That's easy. I've done that. And I'll just do that for a couple of years and then I'll get out. Well, I think that honestly I believe deeply in discipleship versus like just fire insurance and salvation, which is what I was taught, and I'm thankful that I was taught that. But discipleship to me is caught, not taught. It's being around people that you were introduced to Shannon, and you caught how she lived, probably, and it affected how you started.
Well, I hated it though. I mean, at first I'm like, she's a nutball. What did I see? Yeah, she's hot, she's cute, she's a nutball. Yeah. I mean, what I do, and I did fight it. I fought it first, and one day I thought, all right, I'm gonna give myself to God, and it was truly. And she goes, just give it to God. I mean, we separated for a while.
Yeah.
And she would send me a picture of a church on Sunday with my seat empty, and she goes, I still haven't given up on you.
And I was like, when you're ready.
Man, wow. I said, I treat this girl like crap, and she's still there.
That's what those are the type of, like being around Dr. Winstead. Like today we did with our team hero, hardship, and highlight. So it was just kind of an icebreaker to get them like talk about your journey, talk about we did testimony Tuesday. So I gave mine today, and Dr. Winstead was like my hero, and I got to see a man that in worldly standards has been massively successful. NASA and Pringles and IBM and Israeli government and U.S. government and like everything that he owns or has owned is tied back up into like helping kids. And then I got to see him treat me how he treated me and treat so many difficult situations that I've been there 9 years. And like our kids aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. Like a lot of mistakes have been made. But like to see how he led through those, there was something different. And I at some point began to realize like there's something that they have that I don't. And then my desire towards like I think that's Christ. And so, when I was in second grade, I prayed this in a prayer and accepted Christ. But like I didn't really realize what that decision was until I was around people that actually like lived it daily,
Right.
and showed who he was. And so that's maybe the way that my personality is. But when I got to see it, like even Coach Lindstedt, learning how to run the program that he created and be the husband and the father that he was impressive to me. And it was something that like I wanted to become. And I knew quickly into that journey like that's Christ. Because it's so different than everybody else. And I think the show The Chosen, Mary says, I was one way, and then I met him, and then I'm way different. And it's pretty unique to think about, but it's probably what my journey was. I was headed one direction, and I thought that's what I wanted and what success looked like. And now I'm in a way different direction than I thought I would be. And then we've been very, very blessed the last couple of years.
So one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, says proximity is power, and that's exactly what we're talking about. When you're around the right people that teach the right things, you do catch it.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you said that. So the name of the podcast, of course, is Mulligans. And I wasn't big on sports until I met Scott. I was the God one, he was the sports one. But I have come to appreciate sports so much because it teaches so many life lessons. But what I love about it, especially golf, but this is true in all sports, is at the end of the year, there's only one winner. And no matter how hard you try, there's always only going to be one winner. So the next season, and especially as a coach, you kind of got a mulligan. You're doing it over again, right? You have an opportunity to get a do-over. And sometimes you're doing that from scratch.
Sometimes too much scratch, but...
Yeah. What's your focus? How have you been so successful at that? Because clearly you're doing something right.
That's a really good question. I think what we...
nothing on questions.
Yes.
Podcast.
I like it. So it leads into truly like a core belief of ours that I like not even loosely have stolen from Coach Winstead, but like we always and I get goosebumps thinking about it because we always say that numbers on a board don't ever tell us if we created a winner. Like those lights on a board are just lights on a board, and we preach that, and we tell them like the standard is what we're pushing for. We're trying to create something that you can't do on your own, that requires the commitment and the connection of others in the room that we're a part of, and everybody has to do their part to create this. It's actually, forgive me for saying Rob Bell. Rob Bell's kind of gone the other direction spiritually, in some ways, but he was kind of the who's who pastor 20 years ago. But he uses the word epiphenomenon. It's like he says, he uses the example. If you cut open one of those geese on hole 18 a little bit, and you try to find out why he flies in a bee, you won't ever see it because it's something that you can't see. And so we fight every year to create that. I don't know what it is, but what you can't see and like the numbers of what you can see on board. And we try to get them to believe that standard is the most important. And then ultimately, that's what I, we try to prepare for life. Like, that's the thing you want to live by. And I get goosebumps because I had to practice what we preached last year because we had an unbelievable emotional high in February to win our league outright, the inaugural season of our league. Incredible accomplishment. And I don't think anybody in the country would have picked us to win the league. We probably would have been middle of the road with our talent level and whatever, but our group became that. And then, I knew at the end of the year I was going to be sad if we won the last game or didn't win the last game because I wouldn't be able to do that with that group again. They created that. And I had to eat my words because we got upset in the first round. And so, but I went in the locker room and said, you know what we talk about all the time? I already knew, regardless of the outcome of these 3 days, that we were a champion no matter what. Because we had created that as a group. We cared so much for each other as a group. Our 13th best player was just as emotional and upset as our best player. And so everybody played their part. Everybody committed to it. And so that's our approach, is how do we create something that is special? And I think everybody in life has been a part of something special at some point, whether that's in business or whether that's, there's a lot of ways to be a part of something like that. And you can't really ever explain what is special, but you just kind of fight for it. And that's my approach every year. And it looks a little different sometimes, honestly, because personalities are different. And sometimes I have to be more demanding. Sometimes I have to get out of the way. Because sometimes kids are really driven. I just gotta get out of the way and make sure that they stay. They're a wild horse. You gotta keep them tamed a little bit. But that's our goal every year.
Another thing that impresses me is you have Tom Izzo show up, who coaches at Michigan State, or John Calipari College, or Bill Self, or a Curtis Townsend, or somebody like that that's in the upper echelon of college basketball. And all of a sudden they call up and want one of your kids, or they want to show up for practice, and yet it's just like water off the duck's back to you. It's like, look, some coaches are like, oh my God, you don't believe this in my practice. It's like I have to pry it out of you and that's what the thing that's always impressed me with you, because I know that you'll be able to soar as high as the eagles fly with your coaching ability for wherever you want to go someday, if you choose to do that. And yet, you and I have had some private discussions, and I'm going to be very transparent in this deal. But as of right now, you are so happy where you're at. You could go make much more money somewhere else, have a lot more resources somewhere else, but yet you are so happy where you're at. And explain that to people why. It's not always about who has the most money wins and that sort of thing. There's a lot of intangibles that take place to make a complete person in a package.
Give you credit. That's a good talking point and teaching point we give to our guys. Is the word success means so many different things to so many different people, and so from a oddly, the word worldly perspective, from a success standpoint, I've had family members tell me, why don't you take those jobs? They make a lot more money, but I think what I learned from Dr. Winstead and being there and seeing his mission, how special he is and how much impact and influence he's made, I think that's what I want to do the most, is impact and influence. And I think everybody has that. Everybody's impact and influence on a daily basis, no matter what. And it could be for good or for bad.
I try to do that. I try to do that every day with something.
You can either be.
I really do.
And when I was talking to Grady going to Kansas, hey man, people are going to follow you.
Yep.
They're going to follow you down a good path or follow you down a bad path. Mm-hmm. And so we just fight to. That's our success. Fight to try to impact and influence for the good. And those things are just kind of the opportunities come and go, whatever. Those things are, to me, are fleeting. It's you would chase something that in the moment seems good, but would I have the impact and influence that I have right now? I haven't found anything that's been even remotely close to the amount of impact and influence we get to have with our program, with our current players, in our own little school communities, little kids I look up to Grady came back and worked out with me the first couple weeks of August when school started, and my kids were like, "Can I get a picture?" And hanging out. Like, our guys become like role models for young kids in our school. So not only am I trying to impact them, they have the opportunity to do the same thing in their own community. And it's hard for me to think about any other place that like I have the freedom and the space that we have, especially their age group, like teenage kids. You guys raise teenage kids at some point. At some point, mom and dad's voice becomes null and void. Like they get so tired of hearing it, they don't want to listen to mom and dad. But like a coach has a very special place, and so when we hold that dearly, we hold that like with a lot of responsibility on, and like when they come to us for advice or we have to hold them accountable, they're gonna listen more probably to me than they will even to mom and dad at times, just because of that age range, and we can kind of the word control is strong, but like kind of control their surroundings to where distractions aren't in the way. And I've never been attracted to like those other jobs because you are limited with the amount of time you get with them. Because in college, they're with you for 2-3 hours a day, and Lord knows what's happening the next point. So it's just a really unique, special place, and I think that's kind of the reason why I stay, because we want to impact and influence, and hopefully for the good. And I know we have that. I haven't found anything to be close to that.
And not to, but I know, but I don't. I was diagnosed with cancer back in November, right when I was just done your first game, and I think I remember you coming into my hospital room.
I did.
I don't. But I woke up, and if I read that poster 30 times, I thought, he's teaching kids now that, it really made an impact. And actually, I still have the card he wrote me. It's down next to Blue Holt's football helmet downstairs, and everybody reads that one.
So for everybody that's listening, he had the team sign a poster and put scripture on the back of it.
Yeah.
And it was so impactful because at a time where we were not sure of anything, just the generosity and kindness and to see that kids took the time to do that meant so much.
Yeah, I just think we have such a unique opportunity because it's really odd to think about. Our players at Sunrise are more famous, more well known than like professional athletes, because of social media. And so we have such a unique opportunity with being able to help them realize the amount of impact they can have for the good. And so we seek opportunities like that, but yet we also he was going to work for us anyway. Thought he was somebody part of our family. He was going to be doing our games anyway. So especially when you're part of your family, family should step in when things are difficult. And so it was a no-brainer for us to do something like that. And that's the opportunity that we get to have with kids, impact for the good or impact for the bad. And that was hopefully one of many things that the guys got to do last year. They used to think I was crazy in the beginning of the year when I was making chocolate. So I made them go back in the Bronx and tell the workers thank you for the food.
I love it.
But at the end of the year, they appreciated that, and they got to see, okay, we actually can make an impact on others when you walk around. Because so much more now. It's like kids have their hoods up, they have headphones in, they got tech neck, and it's like you stay in your own world, and you lose so many opportunities that we grew up being surrounded with people and building people up, and it's such a egocentric world right now.
It's one thing that I followed the Jim Valvano story. I was right when I was graduating high school, and 6 weeks before
I don't know that story. Can you tell me that story?
You've watched it before. It's Jim Valvano, coach of the North Carolina State Wolfpack, and it's the Jimmy B Foundation now for cancer research.
Okay, yeah.
He formed that. But anyways, one thing I learned from him was that as he walked down the line, he said, every one of my players said, "I love you," and "thank you," and "I love you," and "thank you." And he goes, if I did anything right, I taught people it's okay for players to say, "I love you, Joe." And I thought that was very impactful. And last year's team you guys had, I kind of sensed that too.
Yeah.
You know, the compassion even when the young man's dad's rookie he always took charges for you guys. Armand,
yes, yeah.
Armand, you know, and when Armand would come in the game, the energy level would even go. And we knew Armand was not going to score or a lot of points, but Armand was going to do something to make a difference in the game to impact the energy level of your team.
Yeah.
And you know,
yeah, those are like moments that you never forget. Like when Noah Pick hits a three, and like should have got a technical because half our team's on the court, hugging him, and the game's going on. It's like you get to see your efforts towards building what we were talking about before come to fruition, and like you see kids care about. They don't have technique, and they don't have the egocentric world. They're caring about somebody else, and like I think if you get a part of something like that, you chase that more in the future. Like it just becomes something that's like a drug is a bad word to say, but like it becomes like infectious. Yeah, you want to be around that and with that. And so our returners coming back this year, as we start this year up, like they've experienced it, and so now they're trying to carry it because they've been a part of it, and they believe in it. And so that was some of those home games. Looked at some of those photos, were just hilarious to see those guys get on the court. And, it's stuff you never forget. Those are the things that like was special about last year. Yeah, we won the league and whatever, but those moments to me are what I hold dearly, almost more than winning the league. You know.
So I know all coaches want like the best players out there, and they want that player that already has the skills, already has the talent, and you just know it's going far. And from what I saw last season, you had a well-rounded group of kids where you had some that were like that, some that struggled.
Yeah.
But they all got fun. And it seems to me, and I'm not sure, my question is, when you're looking for a player, if you've got a choice between, you know, well-rounded and a pretty good player that you could make better, or a great player that's all about himself, which are you going to choose?
Yeah, that's a foundation for us is always find good kids, and no one's perfect. We know that, but you find good kids that you can work with. I think if you look at the highest level, we always want to try to the why compare ourselves to like the Spurs. Like the Spurs are like that. I think the Spurs have changed the NBA in a sense that like the character research that the NBA teams do on these kids now for the draft is just absolutely incredible. And I think the Spurs are the first team to do that. But we take the similar approach. No one is bigger than our program, me included. I'm not bigger than the whole. And if you find out very quickly in a conversation with a kid or with a dad, or watch them play one time and be like, he fits or he doesn't. And you can tell a kid that's really all about himself or a kid that, has family members that are all about themselves, like, they're never going to fit into the pieces of a team that we try to put together. And so it's like you're swimming upstream when you have somebody like that. So we'll take, we've said no to a lot of really good players, but we'll take a guy maybe not as good, but like fits into us better. That you take that collective group is better than that one guy. That's been foundational from Coach Winstead, and then it becomes a challenge because as we've gotten better, more people want to be at Sunrise, and so now you have to be more diligent in your process as you check on things, and like-minded people end up surrounding themselves with like-minded people, or misery loves company.
Exactly.
And so we've been strategic and try to do it. We're not perfect. We made mistakes at it, but
it's still nice to have that kid that can hit the 22-foot jumper and jump 4 inches.
Yeah, you gotta have talent, but you can't sacrifice what we believe in for what we believe in for talent. And sometimes you got to make lemonade, and you got a ton of lemons and a lot of sugar. And sometimes you don't have as much lemons.
What was really cool is last year you had one of your players, I believe, wrote a book.
Yeah.
And to see the other players just kind of rally around that was amazing.
He wrote a book. He designed, it's called Project Backboard, which I knew about.
Talking about Noah?
Yeah.
I knew about Project Backboard before Noah, because I've actually tried to get Buddy, because Buddy Yield from the Bahamas, like, they could do 10 courts down there and help youth basketball. And Project Backboard, like, sponsors it all if you, like, can get the right people involved. And I knew about that before. And to know that, Noah was like writing a children's book and doing Project Backboard and applying to, like, 7 Ivy League schools and, like, all these, like his mental capacity and approach to last year was incredible.
Yeah.
Because he was like a 4.6 student, and he's taking the hardest classes we have at Sunrise, which aren't easy. He's doing all these other things alongside writing a book, alongside Project Backboard. Like, his teammates gained a big, like, newfound respect. Once they found he didn't come leading like, hey, I'm writing a book. Like, he came out and like, you know, a book, and it was pretty cool to see how, like, the appreciation for somebody to be that, like, diligent with many different things. It was pretty cool. He gave us a shirt from the launch of the court. I've got a copy of his book signed behind in my office, and pretty special young man.
That's awesome.
My final question for this podcast would be this. So when I met Shannon, going back to when I met Shannon, I pretty much changed in a span of time my circle of friends. More that have more positive influence. Got rid of the negative, the gossip, all that. I mean, I know you couldn't tell that by what you see on the golf course. Sorry,
You
Warren.
said no.
But what I surround myself with guys that are enjoyable to be around, make people laugh, or welcome one, welcome all, basically. We don't discredit anybody. Also have faith and that sort of thing. You, as a basketball coach, as a young basketball coach, still learning, and you mentioned your mentors like Dr. Lynn Statner, but I've read several books, and Lou Holtz and I had a 2-hour conversation about this with Shannon. You always surround yourself with better people than yourself. How do you handle that approach as far as?
Man, like my first, again, I get goosebumps thinking about that. My first job was Buddy Hill. I mean, I got to Sunrise and Kyle was like, hey, I need you to work out Tommy Buddy. I'm like, oh, sweet, that's easy. Working out. Okay.
You realize that he stayed with Shannon's neighbors for a while.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, we'll work, 1 hour a day. I had no idea. That joker had me in there like 3 times a day, 6 hours a day. We don't have AC at our gym. It's 110 degrees in our gym. And that dude wore me out. But I immediately was stretched to excellence right when I started. And so, like, I learned a lot from the guys I coach, because the amount that they can take on often is the amount that I can give them. And so Buddy is like just a sponge, and he wants more and he wants more. So then guess what? Which is what I had to do. I had to go like, learn more. I had to go study more. I had to go. And that was an unbelievable transition to Sunrise, because I got to be with the best player we've ever had. And he stayed with me during the summer when he was in between those year breaks. So I didn't realize that at the time, but now 9 years later, with perspective, I always want to be. You don't always want to be the smartest person in the room. You always want to be open. And I didn't even, how young and dumb I was at the beginning. I didn't even utilize. I got the best coaches in the country coming to our practice, and I never even asked questions. Like, I just was so naive. But now, the constant pursuit of trying to be better. You find people that a guy named Choki AC, who worked for me for 6 years. He's in North Texas right now. That dude made me so much better, because he saw things even at a higher level. He was smarter than I was, and I helped him from the standpoint of probably character and from accountability and coaching the things that I learned from Kyle. And now he's a guy I call 2 or 3 times a week to, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you give me your thoughts? What do you see? He watches our practice film still. So you got to keep people in your corner that A, care about you, but B, can push you. And I can look at the 9 years at Sunrise. My assistant Rod Clark is at Tennessee right now. I had him 2 years, and he went Sunrise, UIC, Tennessee. I mean, bam, high major. And Coach Winstead goes all the way to Minnesota. Like those people that we've been around have been unbelievable. And our tree is big, and you pick something off from every one of those people. So I couldn't agree more, and I've been extremely blessed with the leadership at Sunrise. To be around a guy like Doc on a daily basis is a true blessing. To the staff that we've had, it's you win an award and you think about those things because you know that like those are just massive parts of how you've been successful.
I actually have two more questions. The first one is, so when you got into this, you were fairly young, and you
22.
are very young to be a head coach. Most people, when faced with something like that, they let fear get in the way. How have you overcome that obstacle?
I don't think there was time to be afraid. I was like so engaged into everything that was happening that like there wasn't a lot of time to like step back and be afraid. But at the same time, I was 22, 23, coaching our post grad team. Like Ronald Nerger, who played at Wichita State, was 19. He turned 20 that year. Like I could have been like his teammates.
Your teammates, right?
I mean, it's crazy to think about, but I don't know. I think that the easy answer for that is I just plugged away and just try to outwork people because I knew I was young and I knew I had to be full of energy and I had to be different. Like Coach Winstead, when I got there, had built his reputation and like people followed him and like he had earned his respect because he'd been successful for so long. So I had to go like earn my respect every day. But like then Coach shows up and he's like with it every day. He works his tail off. And I think that was like my approach, just and kind of strike out into the bottle, I guess, a time or two. And I still sometimes doubt, even as we get into big games, like is this the right decision here and there, but I don't know if I've mastered that, to be honest.
Well, my final question would be, what is your hope with all of the players that you coach? If there's one thing that they can take away from you being their coach, what would that be?
The short answer is Christ. I mean, that's, should be so much apparent in the way that we do things. And it's like, there's a reason. The long answer is ultimately our whole goal as a program is to affect the father and the husband that become. And Kyle made that very, very, very apparent when he was coaching there for 2 years when I was with him. And that's the ultimate goal. But like when they get older, they look back and like, man, I remember talking about some of this stuff or going through some of this stuff, and like a lot of them don't appreciate Sunrise until they actually do go through life and then realize that wow, that was like a special place. And so that's ultimately our goal. And I think the reason that you can affect and influence the father and husband they are is because it's Christ. It's not anything we do. His movement, his way that we just try to give to them. So
you're just planting seeds.
And sometimes there's a lot of seeds that don't grow until years later, and you have to trust that. It's hard because sometimes you can't fix them all, and you want to, and you want to help them all. But we've seen some guys that maybe struggled with us later on become very successful, and you know that you had a part in that, and then somebody else probably came behind and did the same thing.
Yeah. They watered it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, this concludes this podcast of Mulligans. On behalf of Shannie, I want to thank Coach Barnwell for being with us this evening. Appreciate your friendship and your candor this evening, and hopefully you'll have a great season this coming season. If you want to catch Sunrise, give them the website or whatever.
Yeah, sunrisechristianhoops.com. We'll probably post on our schedule soon. We're trying to finalize a home date or two, and then put a poster out. Follow us on social media is probably the best. Follow us on Instagram at Sunrise Christian Hoops. We post everything on that.
And are you allowed to talk about your big event yet?
Yeah. We announced would have been probably 2-3 weeks ago that in December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we have 4 of our league opponents, the IBCs, coming to Wichita. We're hosting, league games Thursday the 1st through Saturday the 2nd, or Saturday the 3rd. We'll play Oak Hill on Thursday, which is like the Duke, the Duke of high school basketball, or the Kansas high school basketball. They've been out forever. And it should be a lot of fun. I think people are going to see a high level basketball in high school, and I think Wichita loves hoops, and hopefully they come out to it.
And that'll be on ESPN.
Yeah, Thursday will be ESPN. I'm assuming it'll be national television. Friday and Saturday will be ESPN Plus. The only downfall we have is it's got a really bad PA guy, but we'll deal with it. We got the best PA guy in the city for it. So.
Sure.
So I know what I'm going to be doing for my birthday, huh?
Yeah. December 1st.
December 1st?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You get front row seats.
I love it.
Watch
I'll take
it.
it. That's a great birthday present.
Well-
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We can't wait to watch another great season.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Like and share Mulligans if you will. And until next time, on behalf of Shannon and I, have a blessed week everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Good night.